Hi, everyone. My name is Aragna Ker, and I am sitting here with Julianne Huang. And, right today we're talking about a heavy topic. As you all know, it's about Asian hate and Asian violence that has been escalated through through this pandemic. And so I wanted to get not only my perspective, but I always wanted to get Julianne's perspective on where why is this happening and how it is affecting both her and I. So maybe I could kind of introduce a little bit about myself. So my family and I, we immigrated in Cambodia in 1980, 81. And we settled in a small town called Laverne. And, as an immigrant, I had to kind of assimilate to the American life. Growing up, I think I was about 6, and growing up in Laverne, it was fun times. There was definitely a lot of Americans, and the only way I could really assimilate with everyone was through comic books and cartoon, and that's how I got introduced to the American culture, and eventually, had friends and stuff like that. So, Juliana, how did tell us a little bit about yourself?
I have cerebral palsy, and I'm born in Vietnam, but my mom is from Vietnam. She was born there. So people like me were mistreated and left on the streets to die because no one cared of the disability. So people should treat everyone equal, no matter what.
Right, I totally agree with you. And so how were you treated when you first started school here in America? And what was your experience like?
People would not talk to me
Hmm.
because I don't walk like other people. But then they say I was lucky to be in a wheelchair. And I told them it's not lucky. We all have our own way of conquering our issues.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, me personally, my experience going to school was obviously it's back in the 80s and the highlight of like kung fu. So everyone asked me if I knew kung fu or karate, and I was like, hell yeah, I do. So they kind of kept away from me, but I also had an older brother who was tough. So, they kind of helped me. But, growing up, I assimilated a lot easier than other people. But, I think eventually it's like, it kind of leads to where we are now, where the topic is like, Asian hate, and how are you feeling about it? Because, yeah, how are you feeling about Asian hate that is happening right now?
I think it's outrageous. Like people should not be bullied because of the way they are. People should have the right to talk to anyone and treat them the way they want to be treated.
Right, right. I totally agree. I mean, we all should treat each other like from the size of our heart, not like the skin of our color and our physicality, And to me, it's not so much about me, it's more about like how I feel about what could happen to my parents, because they're older, and like I that kind of disheartens me because, we came from a war-torn country in order to find like refuge in here, and now like to see like that refuge is kind of almost taken away from us, or at a moment someone could like beat up my parents, like that's very disheartening. So, as an artist,
My
I
mom
th-
went through refugee camp.
yeah, so did my family. And there's already a roughness that we kind of go through, and to be reminded that again like some 30 years later, it's really disheartening. So, but what is great is we can shed a light on that, like as an artist, what are you doing to kind of like help shed a light on what's happening?
I would like express my art by showing how
Mhm.
much I fit into like what I feel.
Yeah, I mean, as for myself, I'm not like an artist that like to kind of talk about politics or, what's going on in the world. I just kind of make like one-offs of just what's going on in my life. But just to like see what's happening, it's really disheartening. So I did have to say something and make like, make art that is about that, and hopefully get some of the word out there. And people have been kind of responding to it. My fellow Cambodians have felt responded to it really well. And I think you and I were image makers, and what is going out in the world, it's like we have to kind of soak all that in and expel that out of us. And what I want you to feel is like you are a true artist that is absorbing what's going on in the world, and it's heavy, right? And sometimes we have to express what's out there and expel that out. So an image is really like powerful. How do you want to see people, or how do you see people to advocate and lift up Asian during this time?
People should stand up for us, and not judge us differently just because we're different color or ethnicity.
You're absolutely right. I mean, I think there's already a division in just Asian in general, like, from Vietnamese to Cambodian to Laotian to Filipino. There's a whole diverse like division. But through this whole pandemic, I'm seeing like a more of a uniform, like, rise up Asian, or, like stop Asian hate, and like it that's what I'm kind of seeing right now. And I feel like we're all advocating for each other. So, what do you believe to be the most effective and sincere way of raising awareness for Asian hate?
People should not be treated differently. They should like come talk to us if they want
Yeah,
to know more.
yeah, yeah. I mean, I think the conversation and talking is very important, whether we have, a physical challenge or the color of our skin or the way we look. But, once you get to know us, you might like us. You might like me, you might like Julianne. I mean, I like Julianne, and at first I didn't know like what she was all about, but getting to know her, it's like I'm realizing like the I don't know, the amazingness that she exudes. And not even just her, like even through this whole pandemic thing through Zoom, I'm getting to know her family, her mother, her dog, her sister, and her surrounding. And like you realize like there's a beautiful component that you have, Julianne. And I want you to know that, like it's not just you, but it's the makeup of you and like your whole family, like kind of supporting you also. So, how does your personal experience with the recent news inform your artistic process and your work? I think we touched a little bit about that, but maybe we can dive in a little bit deeper.
I could express like what I'm going through
Hmm.
with art,
Okay, and what is that? What are you going through with art?
with what I see out in the world.
Okay, yeah, and I noticed like with your work, you use like all kinds of materials to kind of like to do what you do, and I think that's a beautiful thing. It's like you're taking all these components of you know products, or like craft stuff, and kind of weaving it into like this beautiful narrative, and sometimes speaks about like animals, and I know you like the beauty of animal and stuff like that, but you're using just these basic components to bring that about. There's something important in that. It's like you're using every day to kind of create this beautiful world. And I think as an artist, that's what we're all striving to do, is to kind of create some kind of like message, or narrative that speaks about who we are. So I think you are totally uncovering that. And as for myself, it's kind of the same thing. I mean, again, like I look at the world and kind of hear and see what's going on. And, as an artist, we absorb things. We're sensitive, right? Aren't we sensitive people?
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, and that's not just an Asian thing either, so, but, being sensitive is where we're able to absorb, like, information, and then as an artist we expel that out, and like, and image making is very important to us, like I know Julianne, when she is making art, she never stops, so like, and I'm the same way. I have to like be pulled away, or like it's kind of innate in both our culture, like, I mean, artistry,
Keep going.
yeah, we can keep on going forever and might not even eat, and I know, as your mom probably has to pry you away. My wife has to pry me away from, working and saying, hey, relax, just eat, don't worry, the image will be there. So that's also another important component. As someone with just with a disability and a minority, you're likely experience hurdles and judgment from people. What are some unique challenges you face that people might not know?
Like when I go to Asian places, it's not wheelchair accessible.
Hmm.
Or when I go to into the store, people will judge me like, why she's in the store
Hmm.
because I'm disabled. I shouldn't be treated any different than anyone
Hmm.
just because I want to look at something in the store or buy
Yeah,
something.
yeah, no, I totally agree. I mean, and I see that happen not only with disability, but just someone that looks different, like, I mean, I used to have like crazy mustache, and I'd go into an Asian area, and like people would look at me and they would just like laugh. Even when I went to Cambodia, like my own people were just like staring at me and laughing at me. Or one time I went and I had like long hair, and like, again, my own people was just staring and looking at me and was going like, who the hell is this guy? So there's already stereotype built in our own culture, and to kind of be in America and be also stereotype. I think for you it's kind of almost like double or triple, because the environment that you're maneuvering in, right? Especially like in the Asian market, like Ranch 99, and Hawaii over here in Monterey Park, like there is no accessibility whatsoever, and like even the aisles in the supermarket are like super stocked everywhere, right?
Yeah, that's why I don't like going to Orange County places. I
Yeah.
usually stay in the car while
Hmm.
my mom goes to the store.
Hmm. So I would like to ask you this then: what would the world would be like if you were to be able to, assess access everything without having, like just the physical part? Would you want to go into the store in Orange County?
Not everyone treated unfair or judged by other people. It makes me feel kind of awkward.
Yeah, yeah. So I mean, my question is, what about if we, if we're going back to the Asian hate thing? It's like it makes us feel awkward being in a space where we're not comfortable in, right? you know if we're not comfortable, it's going to make you and I feel really uncomfortable fast, because we're like not, we look around, either we're not like anyone else, or our skin color doesn't look like anyone else. So it does make you feel really uncomfortable. And I think the truth of the matter is just this whole violent thing has made me feel uncomfortable, but not for myself. I feel more uncomfortable for my parents, my mom and dad. I mean, they're old, so it's like, for me to even just the thought of like them like getting hurt or getting hit one day, it like kind of pains me, like, and I don't want that to happen to them. Not that it would, it just, that fear is in my head constantly, because it's not their natural environment, but it's the environment that we uh, s- sought to find refuge in, as in America. So
When you go back to your country, no.
okay. So I think, it's, I mean, when I go back to my country, I feel like I'm a stranger per se, but eventually over time, like I started to feel like, it's always going to be inside of me. It's always going to be me. But knowing that I've, went through this kind of whole transformation of like, I call it a hybrid identity, where I'm kind of like, not truly American, not truly Cambodian, but a mixture of things. So it's great. I mean, you can't change someone's culture when there's a history behind it. There's a whole ancient history. But what I love to do is like learn more about it. So when I go as like I'm learning, but I'm learning whether the people look at me strangely. I'm still learning from them, and I'm learning more about my culture through them. So I think, I mean, where this whole thing, it's about, Asian hate. It's really about like not understanding each other, not understanding where we're all coming from and where all of our struggles. And I think, we, in order for someone to understand us, we have to educate them, right? I mean, and I think that's, again, it goes back through our voice, and, there are multiple layers of our voice, and also educating ourselves, like know that we have the power to stand up above this whole thing. And, just, we got to speak our mind, Julianne. I mean, I think that's the crux of this. We got to shed a light on this experience, and how will it affect us and how we feel and where we're going to move forward with it, and what I've seen, through a lot of the Asian community is there's a lot of rallies that's happening. There's like vigils happening. So it's all a great thing, so. Is there anything else that you want to add to this, Julianne? I mean, I'm sure there's a lot that you've seen on TV and stuff like that. So
People should stop the violence. It doesn't do any good.
mm-hmm. True that. Stop the violence. That does not do any good. It's, yeah, no, that's the message. Stop the violence. Yeah, I like that, Julianne. I think that's like a great closing statement.